You gotta love Europe's penchant for cafes all over the place. Instituto Navarro de Administración Pública. And here we'll see if we can get some kind of a pan of this church. Although I'm up so close I can't really get a good pan. It certainly has been well maintained. Apparently this is also a museum, although I can't be sure. Descubre los orígenes. I think that means discover your origins. This child has a slightly different facial expression, although it's enigmatic to me. Probably not a sculpture at all. Always loved looking at massive doors. Almost as though they were trying to tell you that if God were here, he'd need at least doors this high just to crawl in. In fact, maybe only Jesus would need doors this big. It's interesting that the ceiling is painted as though it were stained glass. Without these once held candles. Notice the design, colorful, almost Byzantium, but without that precise geometric flair. This is interesting without knowing what it is. The graphic of those snake-like scrolls probably describing who the person was and their importance in the religious hierarchy of iconography. Didn't know what else to say. The relative richness of different religions, monuments for lack of a better term, comparing a Christian church to a Muslim church where the Muslim church is almost a complete absence of anything decorative except for the stairway going up to the pulpit. As I pan this, with its gold over the top overlay, it contrasts so much with this furniture piece, if you will. What was its purpose? This church looks so neat and squeaky clean, as though it were either built yesterday or sandblasted the day before. Last Supper. In this secular world, where certainly the United States is mainly secular, even though it pretends not to be. China doesn't even pretend it is secular. And Spain apparently has become secular. Are these merely museums awaiting the next frightening era of man's history to catapult man back into the superstitious faith belief system these represent? Now we're looking down one of the side hallways. I'm not sure what they're called. Don't think it's cloisters. Beautiful stained glass at the end we'll get closer to. Imagine the riches represented by these silver candlestick holders and the labor and skill that went into those wooden carved seats and backdrops. I would guess this is the sarcophagus of someone, but interesting, it has a wheel there, perhaps for opening it up to view the remains. And here what must be the ultimate in funerary permanence. Replicas of yourself on a sarcophagus facing your God. Could these men imagine that they would lie in such a permanent physical state? Particularly in this incredible place of honor. We're now about to enter the claustro. The claustro, I believe, must be what's called, or what I think is called, the cloisters. That's the arched exterior hallways, if you will. I believe used by monks for meditation. What you kind of look for lack of knowledge, is the empathy you may have with the fineness, the lightness, the filigree feeling of the stone work inside these multiple arches. And imagine that this well once served a host of monks. How far back in time, I don't know, but certainly a time that would have seemed harsh and brutal outside of this place. This place may be very ascetic. This is the refectory, which I believe, in spite of these line of benches on either side, was where the monks ate their meals. God, can you imagine a life where every moment except for sleep was filled, surrounded, dominated, cloaked, fogged in by religion? Here I'm inside of a tower. I'm at the base, of course. Those look like they would be chimneys, but I don't really know. Was this the kitchen, perhaps? That looks like a tiny little stove over there. But what's curious is this. Looks like a ticket booth. And notice there was some kind of carving important enough to be there. Reading the interpretive sign, this is a 14th century or the 1300s kitchen. And even your meals were interrupted occasionally, if not always, with someone's sermon. In case you weren't convinced of your vulnerability in your face of your God. And this refectory was finished around 1330. We're in an outer courtyard now, but somewhere near here is the house of the bell ringer. So there's the tower of the kitchen, and you can see those four corner towers. Whether they served a function, they appeared to have chimneys going up to them. Here are the foundation walls, or at least the walls of an earlier church. Think of the labor that's gone into churches. This looks like some archaeologically excavated and preserved terrazzo, if you will, of inlaid little stones, either reproduced or preserved from the past. A rare and apparently quite significant artifact, since it's the only one displayed in this room. along this steel plate walkway are notes and dates, probably indicating the level of excavation to the left of those. In other words, which era do they represent, these excavations? And here's an infant that was buried for whatever the reason. Notice the wooden posts that indicate some kind of a structure at some point in time. This seems to be a graphic representation of what a neighborhood would have looked like. This also a layout of the Greco-Latina period in the 1st century. Directly below me here, I can hear an archaeologist working on excavation. Imagine what the vision of the artist was when he created this, or including the significance of that little house perched on that outcropping. And notice along here there are these squares, and they're all numbered. My guess, there's 2 sets, one on either side here. Here are the equivalent of catacombs, the remains of probably monks or other people associated with this monastery are buried here. And probably somewhere there's a ledger of who's number 267. An irony is that this numbering system, of course, is what's used in prisons. And I'm guessing along the wall are these stations of the cross. God forbid that while you were en route to have lunch or breakfast, you forgot for an instant that you were an integral part of a religious machine. I'm sure you didn't look at it that way. Look closer at this because it's interesting to see how curious are those faces. Now notice that they're painted. Of course, much of the sculpture of Rome and Greece was painted, even though we see it as white marble. Look at this man, how torturedly bent over in supplication to, I suspect that's Mary in the coffin. Probably angels above with those wings. Yes, I think they are. Very interesting spiral staircase. I think either Michelangelo or Leonardo designed such a staircase. Okay, now we're back here. Picture of an old knife grinder. I mean, in the old days. Sadly, Steve's Ultimararis, or whatever it is, Beatrice, is closed. I'm at the end of Estafeta Street, and there should be the Bull Ring, which seems to have a certain roundness to it. Makes sense. So the bulls come from where those couple is right there with the yellow right there. Right to the right of that green cloaked building. They come flying across and then down through here, through this chute, and down this ramp, through those red doors, and in to confront the 2-footed barbarians that await them. Apparently this is only used a few days a year during that running of the bulls, bullfighting period. This apparently is where the peeps go in. Such an eerie resemblance to a coliseum. It's a relatively new structure, as you can see up there, other than what we're looking at here to the left. Made famous, as was the city, as a result of Ernest Hemingway's The Sun Also Rises